Yeah, exactly.
But we are here.
If I cut out, like just really did, it's possible that the lights could go out, but we have a generator, so the whenever that kicks in and the internet spins back up, I'll get back on.
Yeah. Well, depending on if or when that happens, it'll also depend on how long it takes until the show's over.
Yeah. But we'll see. Maybe I'll be fine.
Maybe. But welcome to the Vomitorium,
Yes,
weekday show.
We are here.
Here on the 7th of June, 2021. As always, I'm your host, The Metal, and joining me is my co-host, Marsupial Gamer, with his fancy buckler hat. How are you doing today?
Good. How are you?
I'm rolling. Had a very rough sleep.
Definitely needs to be broken in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you not just, like, anytime you get
I woke up
just, like,
to my
bend
mom
it
calling.
horribly?
I do, but I literally just opened it 5 minutes ago or less. So I will be doing that after the show. I'll be bending this sucker. But yeah, I was talking about the big news of the day. I'll tell you what, to me, is the actual big news of the day is something called Universal Control. Which did you watch the WWDC keynote at all?
No. I didn't even know it was happening. Though, I'm not sure I would have watched it if I did know it was happening.
Mm-hmm. What does that even stand for? I don't know. It's the Apple. It's the yearly Apple event.
Yeah.
I guess it's the whole conference. But oh my God, the one thing that blew me away in the whole keynote, universal control.
See, I
Apple's
had a
gonna take over the world.
controller
Control.
back
It's
in
amazing.
like 1999. I don't see how this is a big deal.
Yeah. So what it is, it hooks up your various devices. It basically turns every Apple device in front of you into a separate screen. It's like having multi-screens with actual multi-computers.
Mm-hmm.
And so he showed, this was, I don't think this was Tim, was it Tim? I don't know if it was Tim Cook, but anyway, what they showed was an iMac, one of those big standalone things, next to a MacBook Pro, next to an iPad, and with either they use the touchpad on the MacBook and the mouse on the iPad or the iMac. So many different names. You can move your cursor from one computer to the other to the other. It was freaking awesome. I was like, holy shit, that is amazing. It just blew my mind when I saw it. And he had like the cursor, and he was like, okay, I've got this thing on my iPad, and he clicked and dragged it to the laptop, to the iMac, and like dropped it into, he dropped like a video from the iPad onto a video editing software or something like that. It was like, oh my God, this is fucking amazing. That's the one thing that blew me away. It was amazing. I was like, how does this thing work? It's like magic. So that was my big moment. I was like, oh my God. The only other thing that really stood out to me was what did they call it? Something like, it wasn't like smart text or something like that, where they took a picture of something that had text on it, and you could highlight the text and copy and paste it and stuff like that. It was basically,
that just sounds like a more advanced version of OCR.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Character recognition. But it was just cool that you could highlight it right in the picture.
Yeah.
I don't think you could edit it. Oh, there was a ton of things that stood out.
Yeah. But that's cool.
But yeah, basically
OCR's
take a
been
picture
pretty limited up to this point.
out of an iPhone. Yeah. Yeah, it can be useful, like if you're taking a picture of a whiteboard, but it also showed like a picture of a restaurant with like the name of the restaurant above it, above the door or something, and you could just highlight it on the image and click and paste, copy and paste.
Yeah, because the problem with OCR is it has to be some type of plain text traditionally, and there's some variants, like there's math programs that can pick up handwriting and everything, but nothing's been fancy enough that it could pick up like the distinct design pattern of the door, recognize like, oh, these are letters, so we can translate these to just any type of plain text.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. The other thing for developers, now there's a lot of stuff they talked about Xcode that I'm sure is cool. I haven't really looked too deeply into it because I haven't touched Xcode in quite a while. I probably should get back into it. One of them was Xcode Cloud, I think it was called, where you can now compile in the cloud, and you can have people all connected to like a cloud application or something that they're all developing, and you can have automatic. Now that's been around for a while with like Azure and stuff. You could have, cloud compiling and stuff like that. The music just got really loud.
Oh, did it? It sounds the same to me, but here, I can fix this.
But the cool thing for developers is you can now, or whenever the next version comes out, you can take a picture, you take several pictures of a 3D object and have it automatically render into a 3D object that you can then use for game development,
so you can just create a model out of it.
Yeah, you can create a model out of any object in life by taking pictures of it.
That technology's been around for large studios for a long time, but you couldn't even just use like one camera. You'd have to have like a multi-camera setup where you're taking pictures of it all at once, and it's super expensive. The technology is slow. It's kind of cool to be able to scale it down to an actual manageable size that even maybe like small devs that don't have a lot of resources would be able to use it.
Yeah, and of course we'll have to see. Of course, the demo made it look like, oh, I took a couple pictures and suddenly there's this incredibly detailed high-res image on the screen. I don't know how good it's going to actually work.
Yeah,
to do it, but.
And all it's going to do is give you an outer model.
Cool.
Like you're still going to have to do a rig or anything like that. Now, if you're just doing like an Apple, that'd be easy, right? Because you don't have to rig anything on an Apple. It is just a single model. But like, if you're doing a toy car, you're going to have to go and you're going to have to separate the wheels out of there manually so that they can rotate and things like that. But it's still a cool start. I mean, it's better than having to model the whole thing by hand.
Yeah, they showed like a chair and like a trunk, like a chest. That was it. Like nothing. They didn't show the chest then opening up or anything like that.
Well, the best way to do that would be to take the pictures of the chest already open, and then in your program just cropping the top off of it and then rigging it to be able to shut.
Yeah. Probably. But yeah, it would be interesting to see if you could do that with a person.
I imagine you could. Detail-wise, it may not be
You'd
the
have
best.
to stand very still.
And the problem is, going back to the fact that you'd still have to rig the model afterwards. Depending on what pose you take the person in, they may not bend very well.
Mm-hmm.
They might end up looking like a doll.
Yeah, you'd have to do all of
the parts and.
Yeah, you'd have to do the whole skeleton, and if you wanted to move them, do the, what's it called, reverse kinetics or whatever it's called.
Yeah. Now, it might help, again, as a starting point. Like, if you want a good idea of what this model should look like in 3D space, you could always use it as a base.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, yeah, there are a lot of things that kind of blew me away. I'm not planning on really watching the WWDC event. I guess it's a week-long conference.
Ooh.
But
what do they have to talk about for a week long?
That was pretty impressive.
I mean, I guess they could go more in detail on individual aspects, but
yeah,
because that's what the keynote is.
Yeah, I mean, they basically announced
the synopsis that they're going to talk about for the rest of the week, right?
Yeah, yeah. And there's new versions of everything coming out. There's new versions of, you know, the Watch OS and the iOS, and Mac OS, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I can't think of anything particularly impressive that they showed on the watch. I mean, what more can you do with a Apple Watch? I don't know.
I don't know. I don't really like smartwatches in general. I get why people do won't like them, because what was it? Get Smart, I think, was probably the first time that you saw something like that, and people have wanted a spy watch ever since then. And they're just like, why would I want a phone on my wrist? It just sounds dumb.
Yeah. It's, you know, I had one many years ago. It is lost somewhere in Tempe. Probably thrown away. Someone probably just took all my shit and threw it away. I'll tell you, it was really only good for like playing games.
Well, the thing is too is like, I don't know about most people. Maybe it's because I'm ambidextrous, but I like using both of my hands whenever I do anything. Both of my thumbs. But like when you have it on your wrist, you can only use one hand.
Yeah. Well, all the games and stuff that I ever played on it were really just like tapping games and stuff. So there wasn't really any opportunity to use more than one finger at a time. But one cool thing was like with iMessages on the watch, it could pick up your pulse, and you could send like a heartbeat to the other person. Which again is kind of useless
and kind of creepy.
You know, novel the first. Yeah, it's novel the first couple of times, but then it was just like, okay, still just that's all I'm doing is sending you my heartbeat.
I could see like a really rich mother buying one of those things for her baby, get it like fitted extra tight, and it's like, I want to hear your heartbeat at all times.
Yeah. No, it would pick up the heartbeat from your fingers, so you had to actually put your fingers on the thing. It wasn't picking it up from your wrist.
That's lame.
So. Although I guess maybe it also does that.
I wonder if it'd be able to tell your blood pressure.
That's like, well, like the newest one looks like it has like a blood oxygen sensor.
Yeah.
So I'm like, how does that work without like pricking, you know, taking a blood sample? I don't know.
Yeah. Well, at least blood pressure you should be able to pick up from heart rate and the heat your fingers are giving off. Like you should be able to get that just from those two metrics, which I'd assume the screen would be able to do, because it could tell how often the sensor is picking up the blood moving, right? That's how it gets the heartbeat. It's from that. And then it should be able to detect heat. Like any of the screens should be able to detect heat at all.
I don't think it has a heat sensor.
Well, how does it pick up your hand touching it? Doesn't it hand heat? Isn't that how it senses things?
No, I think it's electrical. I think it's like an OLED screen. Or pressure.
Okay.
And or pressure. Yeah, most Apple devices, it's like it's electrical because like that's why they don't work with gloves. Like you can push the screen and it won't work with a glove, but there are special gloves that have like
Have, like,
pads on the
silicone.
fingers that allow
Yeah.
that conduct it actually conducts electricity through your fingers.
Yeah, I've got
I guess it
a
can test. It can
set of
send.
silicone gloves, or they have silicone pads on them, so I can use them on screens. Well, I guess that would be another way of detecting your heartbeat is just an electrical pulse. That would be less accurate though than heat.
I guess. I don't think they have heat sensors.
Yeah.
Not that I've heard. But
I
yeah,
mean, either way,
there's a
do what they're trying
ton
to
of
do.
new APIs.
I said either way, it could do what they were trying to do. I was just trying to think of how they were doing it. But without heat, that you wouldn't be able to tell blood pressure just from an electrical pulse. You could tell heartbeat, but you can't tell like blood pressure from an electrical pulse.
Yeah.
Apple devices are expensive.
So yeah, they also announced they are. They also announced a ton of new APIs for Xcode developers and stuff. But again, I haven't gone into that. They didn't even go into it in very much detail. I think it's just too much information for a keynote.
Yeah.
But Apple aficionados would say they're expensive because they're good, because that's how much they're worth.
And I think actual marketing experts would say they're expensive because Apple is selling a luxury product, which is also how they convince people to buy it because people like luxury. It makes them feel like they're better than other people.
That's right. But today, that universal control, I was like, oh my God. Makes me want to get, a new iMac and a new iPad and just use them as dual screens. Or I could just use the dual screens that I already have.
Yeah, I was like, I don't know. I don't know if I even want all of my devices communicating like that. Like, I know it sounds cool, but it's like, do I really want everything communicating like that?
Well, why would you have, like in this example, why would you have a video on your iPad?
Yeah.
I guess you could record it with the camera and then drag it over to some.
But couldn't you also
software.
just record it with a webcam on like your computer anyway?
Yeah. I mean, I guess it's easier to have an iPad with the camera on it. And
I know one thing they were bragging about was like an update
you're
to
taking it.
FaceTime or something. It's like a big change with FaceTime.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember. They did talk about that for a long time.
Because that's
none
what
of it was particularly memorable.
That's what all the normies are going to care about. Because that's what most people use things for, is like FaceTime and stuff.
Yeah. Oh, they added the ability to pin messages in iMessages. That's kind of cool because sometimes I'll send a message to someone and weeks later I want to try and find it, but I can't find it. Like an image or something. But that was the most impressive thing that I saw.
The live text is basically just Google Lens.
Oh.
Yeah, Google's already been doing this.
Google Lens?
Yeah. You can actually, they've been doing it with Translate too. Did you know if you have Google Translate installed on your phone, it uses a version of like OCR. It's their Google Lens. It's better than traditional OCR. So I think this is probably on par with that. And you can actually translate anything, even like store signs. The camera will pick it up. You highlight it in Google Translate, and then it'll take that to the translate screen. It'll tell you what it's saying. So even like if you see a sign, you're at the Asian market, you have no idea what it says. You can just translate it from like Chinese to English.
Yeah. That sounds awesome.
Yeah. It's pretty cool. I use it a lot when I was playing Pokemon Red because I have a a limited edition Japanese 2DS for Pokemon Red. It's kind of got like that translucent red, like old Game Boys would have the see-through body. And it came with a copy of Pokemon installed on it. But it's a Japanese copy of Pokemon. And like the only word I know here is Pokeball. I do not know what any of these other words say. So I'm like taking my phone over it the whole time I'm playing. And thankfully, it's a matte screen. And I'm just like scanning and like, what does this say? What does this say? What does this say?
That's cool. Well, Apple caught up with that, I guess. Yeah. Trying to catch up. I don't know if it translates. That would be an interesting.
It should.
Test.
Let's see. Oh, and apparently now other users will be able to see if you're in D&D mode.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. So they actually know not to disturb you.
Oh, that's good, I guess.
It's like hanging one of those little signs on your door room.
Yeah. Could they not before? I guess not. I guess it just wouldn't show up on your screen, but people wouldn't know why. No one would know why you're not answering.
Well, it's because Apple's network communicates directly with each other. This is something that we've known for a long time. If you go back to people who were on Apple devices and people who weren't would have different color bubbles in the texting. Like you would like it was like a green or a blue bubble, and you know if somebody was using an Apple device or not. So they were always talking to each other this way. I'm assuming now if somebody's in your contacts and they're on an Apple device, it will actually tell you if they're currently not to be disturbed.
Yeah. That's good. You know, an interesting side effect of like iMessages using a separate network was that when I got my phone deactivated, I could still message other people on iMessage. But I couldn't message, you know, they'd shut down my SMS messaging, so I couldn't message anyone on Android or anything like that. So but iMessage remained available for a while until they gave away my phone number.
Yeah. That's why I just use Google Voice for everything.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they were showing off some stuff with Siri, being able to use it offline and stuff like that. And they showcased. Yeah. They were saying how they've obviously can't do anything that requires, you know, looking up something online. You can't, but a lot of local stuff like setting an alarm or something, you know, you can do with offline. It doesn't have to go online, and they were kind of tying that into security and not sending your data to servers whenever it's not necessary. So. Anyway, they do seem to be genuinely concerned about security.
They should be. In the modern day,
sending your data at Apple.
Security is a nightmare. It's only going to get worse.
Yeah.
Like computer security and network security is not going to get any better. Like the tools for it will improve, but the tools used against it will get even better faster. You're always just going to be playing a game of catch up.
Yeah. And they always seem to be trying to confound like law enforcement.
Yeah.
From being able to unlock your phone and get messages.
I like that term we use a lot, usually just for crypto, but it's a good term to use in general. Cold storage. It's okay to keep digital versions of all of your important documents and stuff like that. Just keep them on an external hard drive that you only ever plug in when you directly need them. Do not leave them on any device that is connected to the internet at all times. Don't leave them on your phone, because your phone is always connected to some network. Don't leave them on your laptop, because you're probably connecting to a network the instant you turn it on in the modern day. Leave it on some type of cold storage. Make sure you have something that's not connected to networks if you want to keep it secure.
Yeah. Yep.
You know what the big problem
They
with
did
Apple
have a
security
whole
was?
section on security. What's that?
And this is their security. You're talking about conditioning and stuff. They need to train their staff better. Because it used to be really hard to break into Apple networks. It still kind of is. They have some of the better network security. But despite how good it was to break in, or how hard it was to break into their network and how good their firewalls and security was, they were actually the easiest company to get people's information from. Why? Because you could get almost anything by calling up Apple customer service, even if you weren't the person who owned the device. And they were really bad, and they would just give away people's information. As long as you had, like, all you had to do was guess, like, what somebody's security answer was. And if you know the person well enough, it's pretty easy to guess any of their answers to their security questions. And they were just giving out people's data left and right.
Well, nobody knows the name of my first pet, so.
Unless your mom wanted to steal your data.
That's my. Oh yeah, that's true. She might guess wrong too.
Maybe. She
might not remember. My parents always had a lot of pets, and so my first pet might be different from the one that she would think that I would put. But
yeah, because sometimes your parents will think, oh well, it's whatever was the oldest pet when you were born or something like that. It's like, yeah, but that wouldn't be my first pet.
Or they might not remember, or that she might not think that I remember the one that I always put down because it was a pet that we had, a dog that we had when I was very, very young. So she might think, oh, he doesn't remember that one. I do. I'm not going to say what the name is.
Or else I'd be able to get into your all of your network data for Apple. Get your iCloud data.
Exactly. I don't know if that's the particular security question for that, but I do use it frequently. I don't know why they still occasionally, like some systems, ask mother's maiden name because that's so easy to look up.
Oh yeah, that's the worst one. Or school names. Well, that's one of the common ones. It'll be like, what was your first school or your elementary school or whatever. It's like, most people have all their school data easily like searchable on them. It's like all the way back to elementary school. I can find out what class you had in kindergarten.
Yeah, I have, like, my bank, one of the security questions is the name of my first grade teacher.
Yeah, that's easily searchable.
I highly doubt. Really? I don't know.
You know why? Because they could probably find your yearbook from that year.
To be.
A lot of that stuff's cataloged online.
I don't know. Because there was no online when I was in first grade. So I don't know if that was ever digitized at all.
And it'll vary from school district to school district. Like, some of them are going back and they're scanning their old yearbooks and stuff like that, but some of them just aren't. Especially, were you already in private school by first grade?
Yeah.
Yeah, then it's probably a higher chance that it's not cataloged.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I would have been 6 in first grade, so 1983. Yeah. I doubt anybody could figure out what my first grade teacher was in 1983.
Well, if you were public school in certain districts, that yearbook would have been cataloged. But being in private school, that probably changes a lot of things. The school district probably, or your personal school, has no reason to go back and catalog that stuff and put it on the internet.
Yeah. Plus, I don't even know. I imagine that school still exists. I guess. Yeah. I don't know. It was weird when I was a kid in school. The first private school that I went to, I think it only went up to grade 6, and then you would have had to go to a different middle school for grades 7 and 8, and then a different high school for like 9 through 12.
Yeah.
But I think they've since expanded my elementary school, so at least it's first through, or K through 8. But yeah, when I went there, it was only K through 6.
K through 8. That's crazy.
At least.
Yeah. Well, you know, like
I don't think it went
public school districts, how at least down here in Texas, how they cut them up, right? Is K through 4.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's what I would have expected. Either it would be K through 4 or K through 8, or
and then high school
K through 12.
Separately. Yeah.
Yeah. But weirdly, it went up to 6th grade.
That's how it was when my dad was in school.
Okay.
He was talking about that. He's like, yeah, they went up to 6, and then they had like a 7 and 8, and then high school.
Yeah.
And he went to school.
Yeah, well, once I moved to Milwaukee, this was in Alabama. Once I moved to Milwaukee, I went to a K through 12 school, and they broke it up into lower, middle, and upper schools. So it's 1 through 4, 5 through 8, and 9 through 12. That makes sense.
Yeah.
And then you could go to the same school from kindergarten through 12th, which some people did.
I mean, for a lot of
I was only there for 8
U.S. history, that was the standard, was just going to the same school till you were done. Not through 12, though, because school didn't go to 12 originally. Most people were out of school by the time they were 14 throughout most of U.S. history. Which I think is probably the way it should be. Unless you are going to higher education, you pretty much know everything you need to know by the time you're done with the 7th grade.
Yeah, pretty much in high school was, you're learning stuff that you kind of need to know if you're going to college, but then probably will never use for the rest of your life.
Yeah. I mean, if you're going to force kids to be there anyway, that's why I like things like industrial tech, wood shop and stuff. Like, stop forcing them to do reading, writing, and arithmetic at that point. Maybe you could have a single class for keeping fresh until you're out, right? Like a homeroom class, like, okay, we're doing just some refresher stuff, a study hall class. But just start kids on trades.
Yeah.
Because that's what most people are going to be doing is trades.
Yeah. Yeah, I was in, like, calculus classes all through high school. And I'm like, when am I ever going to use calculus again? I don't even remember it at this point. I don't remember how to do... derivatives and all that kind of crap.
See, I actually end up doing that stuff all the time.
I don't remember any of that. Damn it! Rebellious Pastry guessed my pet name. You know what's funny?
Yeah.
I did have a cat named Fluffy. That was my second pet. See, this is, if my mom were to guess, she might actually guess Fluffy, because she might think that was the earliest pet that I remember, but we had a pet before that. But she's actually right. That was my second pet, was named Fluffy.
See, most small town schools are still K through 12 all on the same campus. Yeah, I believe that in tiny areas. My district had to expand fast because, like I said, compared to a small town, the city I moved into would have been considered big, but compared to like any normal city, it's a dirt town. It was like 1,800 people when we moved into the town. And they had to expand fast because now there's like 40-something thousand people in the town. So we went from having like 3 schools in the town to having like 12 schools because we have multiple elementary schools, multiple middle schools, and everybody's got to converge between the 2 high schools. At one point, they made an entire separate center for 9th grade students and those who are doing pre-collegiate classes. And then 10 through 12 was its own high school. I'm like, why? Why are we growing so fast? I liked this town when it was smaller.
Yeah, my kids are they. It's all technically the same school, but it has one campus that's just K through 4, and then the other campus that's middle and upper school. So they moved over there when they went to 5th grade. But yeah, I think most schools break it up that way.
Yeah.
4 grades for each level.
We actually, in my area, we don't have a single middle school. Right? We refer to the 4 middle grades as middle school, but it's split up even further.
Mm-hmm.
So over here, we have schools just for 5th and 6th, and those are called intermediate schools. And then we have schools just for 7 and 8, and those are called junior high.
Interesting.
Yeah, I hated it because I had to... I lived really close to a new intermediate school, too, but I was right on the border of where they were cutting up the districts. So I had to be bused to the other side of town just for 5th and 6th grade.
Mm-hmm.
And then I got to walk to school again when I went to junior high. I'm like, why? Why was it split up that way? I could walk to the other school.
I wonder if that's a southern thing, the whole junior high, because I guess that's what it was here, is that 7th and 8th grade were considered junior high.
Yeah.
So that's why it was separate. But I definitely don't remember that being a thing in Milwaukee, at least.
Well, I don't know if it's a southern... Maybe it just hasn't spread as far into the Midwest, and it's kind of like it curved downward into a slope. Because I said in New Jersey, they had junior high, where my dad went to school. And that's definitely not southern. That's the north.
Strange. Timothy says middle school is 6th through 8th. That's weird. So 3 grades.
In
Japan,
high school is only 3 grades.
Yeah, I like it. I like it being symmetrical. 4 grades for lower, middle, and upper. Just makes sense to me. Rebellious was sad during 8th grade.
8th
Sorry
grade
for
was
that.
probably my favorite grade. It's either 8th or 4th. One of the, and it's funny because those are kind of symmetrical to each other. But it's one of those two.
The only thing I remember of 8th grade is my English teacher. We had an English teacher who was new to the school. I had him, the first year he was there, and he was like the first teacher who actually challenged me. I got straight A's until I got to 8th grade, and then my English teacher, my first quarter, I think I got a C in his class. But by the end, my last quarter, I think I got an A. Because he actually was challenging, actually forced us to think about what we were reading. And that was the year that we read 1984. So that was, good to have a teacher that actually taught us critical thinking when we were reading a book like that.
Yeah, I had a teacher like that in 11th grade. We were reading Brave New World. And it wasn't on the curriculum. She was insistent that we read Brave New World. I'm like, looking back now, I was like, you were actually probably one of the sane teachers. But in 8th grade, I got into a verbal fight, like an argument, with my science teacher. And it was because I was actually right and he was wrong. And I had the textbook to support it. But he's like, no, but the worksheet says this. It's like, I don't care if they misprinted the answers on the worksheet. I have all the proof right here. And like even the other kids in the class, including one of my best friends at the time, was sitting right next to me. He was in my group. They all knew I was right. I mean, they could look at the textbook itself. It had the answer and my supporting arguments, but we just got loud and like there was vitriol between us. And then he sent me to Like, he gave me a write-up, and in that school, if you get written up, you have to go see the counselor. So I did go see the counselor, and then the counselor would decide whether you're going to get in-school suspension or detention or anything like that. But what he didn't realize is in that year, I was also a counselor's aide. So when I went to go see the counselor, she knew me, and she was like, wait, this doesn't sound right. And then to the teacher, and I explained, it's like, that sounds right. So then I just got to chill in the counselor's office for the rest of the class period.
Yeah. Interesting.
I also used to, they had a bunch of like sticky notes that they didn't need, like different multicolored sticky notes. And, you know, because sticky notes are perfect squares. That one day when me and my friend, who I was the counselor aide for that period, he's like, you know, we're supposed to have 2 aides in here. Do you have anybody else you could recommend it? So like my best friend at the time, I said, hey, what do you do in second period? And he left whatever class he was in because he didn't need it. It was like an elective. And we were just basically goofing off in the counselor's office for a whole year. And what we did was we took all these sticky notes and we started making like video game sprites on the wall with the sticky notes. And the counselors thought it was cool. It's like, oh, wow. Nobody's ever thought of that. And they were taking pictures of us with the sticky notes and stuff. It was pretty fun.
Timothy Olson's talking about his history teacher. I had a history teacher in high school who I'm not 100% sure, but might have had a crush on me. Or maybe I had a crush on her. I don't know. I had a hot history teacher in high school. Of course, back then, I feel like it was less common for teachers to have affairs with students. And so, obviously, I mean, at least it wasn't in the news.
No, it was definitely just as common. They just didn't talk about it.
Yeah. So I don't think, you know, so nothing happened, but there was some interesting. It might have all been in my mind. Maybe I just imagined it mind. Because she was. You
were like a teenage boy. I mean, the hormones in your system would have been making all kinds of excuses that didn't line up with reality.
Yeah, entirely possible. But I just remember having seemingly flirty conversations, but it might have just been flirty on my end. I don't really remember that much to you. But anyway.
Just in a Van Halen music video.
Yeah. Nothing happened. She would have gotten fired easily, at least. At any rate. Yeah, so I learned in 8th grade. It was funny, the first day that we started learning, reading 1984, we spent an entire period on literally the first paragraph of the book. Like, dissecting every word and sentence. It was really strange to me at the time, but in retrospect, it was like, wow, there was a lot to unpack in that first paragraph of that book. So I knew every detail of the significance of the name Winston Smith.
See, we never even read 1984 during my schooling. None of those books were on the curriculum or anything. That's why I was even surprised when that teacher decided to make us read Huxley's Brave New World, which I think is actually slightly more relevant than 1984. I think Huxley was more correct about the direction of the future. I mean, they're both very relevant books, especially because 84 really details how socialist influence happens upon society, and that it's even not the state you got to worry about, it's your own neighbors.
Yeah, 1984 was a bit hyperbolic, I think. Yeah. Probably because it was based kind of on, like Soviet Russia and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But, yeah, Brave New World was a bit more, well, it had some hyperbolic elements, but a lot of it was, more realistic, I guess.
Its trajectory,
especially like the drug dependent. Yeah, yeah.
But I'm still betting, and this is under
Interestingly,
the
both
Huxley mindset, is freaking what's that movie? Demolition Man. That's what I think
oh,
we're headed
oh, yeah.
towards. Yeah.
Yeah. But that had a happy ending. Both those books, the main character ends up dead
Yeah.
in the end. One with a bullet in the brain, and the other hanged himself. So, both rather depressing books.
Yeah, well, that's because they weren't Sylvester Stallone. That's the real thing.
That's right. Yes, he defeated Simon Phoenix.
Who has one of my favorite
Which is interesting.
lines in any fictional medium. And that's when Simon Phoenix turns to Dr. Cocteau and he's like, listen, you can't take away people's rights to be assholes.
Right. Yeah, what's his name was great in that. Who was that underground guy? The guy who played
Dennis Leary?
Edgar Friendly. Yeah, Dennis Leary. He's great.
Yeah. That's where I would be. I'd be underground
He's
eating the rat burgers. I ain't dealing with that Cocteau land or whatever you want to call it. San Angeles.
That's right.
Everyone was good in that movie.
Definitely.
Murder, death, kill. I love it too. It's like, because everything about Cocteau, like what he does, ends up backfiring on him. It's like, sure, Phoenix can't kill you, but that doesn't mean he can't get some other crazed person to kill you for him.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. That was pretty dumb. Excuse me. Well, did you have any other? I guess E3 is coming up.
It's coming up.
Has it started?
The early stuff is technically started. That started on the 5th, but that's pretty much just people talking to the news. So there's nothing really going on yet.
Yeah.
We do know this
nothing.
Thursday, Gearbox is going to be talking about like a new game and stuff that they're putting out. Like there's going to be some early announcements coming up, but nothing big. We know what developers are going to be in what showcase. Like Valve is actually going to be a whole section of the PC gaming show this year. Psychonauts 2 is going to be talked about, which I'm excited for. I've been waiting for Psychonauts 2 for a really long time, and it may even be released as early as August, which is surprising. I still wasn't expecting that for a bit because that game's been in development hell for so long.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've never been to E3, but if it's anything like the Game Developer Conference, for that there's always a week ahead of time where it's not really open to the general public, but for game developers they have sessions for about a week, and so some news stories can come out of that, because there'll be what do you call it, game studios that may have a talk or something, and they may announce something. But then there's the second week is where sort of the open to the public stuff is.
Yeah.
But it looks like the Square Enix Presents thing isn't until Sunday. It's happening on Sunday for some reason.
Yeah, E3 is such a commercial event that they don't take the weekends off when they do it or whatever. It's like a Sunday's just any other day to be doing an event thing. So we're going to be missing that.
And then Yeah. Then the other big one is Nintendo Direct on next Tuesday, 15th.
Yeah. We're actually getting an update to Animal Crossing the day before that. The Dragon Boat Festival.
Oh, yeah?
Starts. It's going to be limited time
okay.
items.
Cool.
I started playing that Hako
see if there's anything else. Oh, you did?
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about
That's
it.
cool.
Like, I'm not being too judgmental because it's an early access game. There's a lot of development that's going to be done on it. It's got a lot of the stuff I liked about the original Animal Crossing, but it also moves at the pace of like a Harvest Moon or, a Stardew Valley type game. So it's not like a real-time game. There's Spring 3 is the day I'm on, and the time moves at about the same pace, and you can go to sleep and fast forward time. So it's kind of like a halfway mixture between the games. Which is interesting. I mean, it'll stand apart.
So it's not real time.
Yeah.
Like Animal Crossing.
Yeah, because you're building up a town similar to like New Leaf is kind of where the town building aspect started, but less like that. It's like it's a dirt poor town that used to be a happening little tiny village, but the train doesn't come by as much anymore because you don't get tourists. So there's literally a cafe/inn and a shop in the town, 2 residents, and a workshop. So technically there's 5 residents overall. And your character ends up in the town because you fell asleep on the train and got off on the wrong stop. But the train doesn't come by very often. So the guy's like, well, there's nobody here. You could just use the spare room that we used to rent out to people. And you're trying to you can work your bill off. You don't have to pay anything. You stay in the room for free. Just help us make the town look nicer until the train comes back through or whatever. And you basically just move into this town.
Yeah.
You have the ability to move anything, put benches. You're trying to make the town square look nicer. I'm assuming more businesses get put up because the game kind of alludes to that. There's just a couple people living in the back. There's like a beach. They're separate areas. There's a sprint meter for some reason. I don't know if there's like races, like a town parade race or something, a marathon, but you can't just like hold dash the whole time. There's like one of those circular dash meters, like in Breath of the Wild.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. But I'm enjoying it. There's just not much to it. And again, it's an early access game that I believe is being developed by a single person. So what can you expect from a game with that level of graphical quality too, like all the 3D models and everything, all being done by a single person? Yeah. It's like, I'll play. I'll see how it develops and stuff. I'm not going to judge it too much.
It looks cool. Yeah, it's like a 3D Animal Crossing. Plus, isn't that? It sounds like a very similar premise as New Leaf.
Yeah.
I remember you start on a train, and you're sort of mistaken for the new mayor of the town.
You got to start on a train because.
But yeah, I'm looking at it.
Most Animal Crossing games, you start on a train, more than not.
Yeah.
One time you start in a cab, and another time you start on a plane, and another time on a bus. But of the games, the only multiple opening there has been is we've been on a train at least twice now.
Yeah. But yeah, it does look like a 3D Animal Crossing. Looks pretty cool. I can't believe it's like one person. Wonderscope is the developer.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing.
And the characters seem fine. This is what I've enjoyed about it. And I did talk about this a little bit on the episode you weren't here because I was just rambling on about stuff. But the thing I liked about the original Animal Crossing was, A, the town felt small. The area felt big because of the way you had to slide from square to square on the map. But it had like this very small town feel. Like there's this big forested area and stuff like that. And each of the characters felt distinct. Like knowing everybody in a town, right? Like, like your neighborhood is just the whole town is the neighborhood, and each of these characters so far definitely all have a distinct personality to them, because they're not like we've got as many Animal Crossing characters as we have Pokemon now. We kind of have to just have repeat personalities.
Yeah, that's a shame that as it's gone on, the characters have gotten less and less personality. They just have personality types, where everyone in the same type gives you the same kind of responses. It's like, they could take the time and come up with unique stuff.
I think they would need more people working.
They make enough money to do that.
That would probably be the problem. Like in Hako Life, in my town right now, I don't know if there are different residents like randomization or if you unlock them all in an order or whatever, but they're right in my town right now. There's this elephant who's wearing like punk clothes, and he's always talking about like doing ollies and kick flips. And one of his friends, I don't know how he has friends. There's only like 3 other people in the whole town, but one of his friends wiped out doing like an ollie off of a park bench and stuff. It's like, yeah, that's cool. Like, this character clearly has a personality. He's a skater dude.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny that, they can come up with, one guy can come up with a unique personality, but I guess they probably have fewer NPCs than Animal Crossing that has like a zillion of them.
Yeah, the first game they all had unique personalities, right? Like they still had the types. You'd have like there's the sporty or the jock type, the prep, and stuff like that. But even within those types, the animals had a bunch of unique stories to them. Like they would talk about their siblings, or there was this this one like gothic, I think she was an elephant, who would basically just be calling you dirt and making fun of you the whole time. Like that was just her way of associating with you. And everybody felt unique, and the longer Animal Crossing went on, the more and more it's like you can expect the sporty people to all say the same things as all the sporty people. And there's less and less characters talking about their family life. In fact, in Wild World, people are still talking about their families, but you start to see overlap of like people had the same stories as other people.
Yeah. It's funny, in New Leaf, they seem to start to transfer some of those more advanced or, more in-depth characters to sort of the main, like, town characters from the neighbors. Because I remember you'd get that kind of detail, from the shopkeepers and that sort of thing.
Yeah, and in the past, people like Tom Nook and the recurring characters didn't have a lot of backstory to them. But in the newer games, you can learn all sorts of stuff about them.
Yeah, but they even started to curtail that a bit in New Horizons, I think.
Yeah.
I don't recall having particularly long conversations even with, the Able sisters or anything like that.
Yeah, like you have a few.
Whereas I remember in New Leaf there was more.
But yeah, like in New Leaf, they would have this whole dialogue tree about what's her name, Labelle, or their sister that went off and made her own brand.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh well, have to just go back and play New Leaf if I love it so much.
Yeah.
or City Folk or whatever.
That's actually the one I've played.
Mallett's
the
in
least.
Kansas. Which one? City Folk?
Yeah, City Folk. I think it's because I just spent too
I've
much time
played it
playing
zero.
Smash Brothers during that.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't even get into it. I had absolutely no interest in it until New Leaf came around. And Peach was like, you got to try this game. I love it.
Yeah.
She played it all the time. It's like, all right, fine, I'll try stupid Animal Crossing. And then I was addicted. But anyway.
Yep, it's the end of the show.
Looking at the time.
Yeah. Thanks for watching, everyone. If you enjoy the show, please share it with somebody else who might enjoy it. And if you really like it, please consider giving a donation to streamlabs.com/Vomitorium Live. And we will see you in the next episode.
See ya.